use tariffs to take our businesses, not only steel, other businesses too.
The president announced a new 50% tariff on.
We must rely more on Canadian steel for Canadian projects.
$900. That's the going rate for a ton of U.S. steel tonight. Just a week ago, it was barely $700. The surge didn't come from Wall Street. It was triggered by a single stroke of a pen on June 4th, when President Trump doubled tariffs on steel and aluminum, raising them to a crushing 50%. Within hours, Canadian steel mills, America's most reliable metal source, halted nearly all outbound rail shipments. The first to feel the blow? Detroit. Assembly lines slowed to a crawl. Stamping presses went quiet. Factory robots stood idle. Night shift workers saw their paychecks disappear. North of the border, it was a different story. In Hamilton, Ontario, blast furnaces roared back to life, lighting up the skyline like something out of a war movie. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney fired back, calling Washington's move a massive self-inflicted wound and slamming the door on trade. So, how did a tariff meant to support U.S. industry end up choking the Motor City of the very material it needs most? Why is America's oldest ally now treating steel like a strategic weapon? And who's going to foot the bill when the production lines come to a stop? Ottawa, Beijing, or Main Street, USA? Here's how it all unfolded. On June 4th, 2025, as Washington woke up, the tariff proclamation hit the Federal Register. By lunchtime, every steel shipment heading to U.S. ports was slapped with a brand new 50% duty, double the rate from 2018, high enough to knock half the world's steelmakers out of the American market. Just 12 hours later, phones rang from Cleveland to Monterey with the same grim realization. Any hot rolled coil that cleared customs at Tuesday's prices would bleed red ink by Wednesday. The panic hit futures markets first. On June 5th, Nusor raised its base quote to $900 per short ton, nearly a $150 jump in just 2 weeks. For automakers, that's slow-motion sticker shock. A typical pickup truck uses about 1 ton of steel. Multiply that by the 1.5 million F-Series trucks Ford plans to build this year, and they're staring down a $500 million materials bill before even welding the first cab. But the bigger shock came from Canada. Catherine Cobden from the Canadian Steel Producers Association told reporters U.S. orders had basically disappeared, making it nearly impossible to sell south. Translation? The 12 million tons of steel Canada usually ships to the U.S. each year just vanished, along with the raw material needed for Detroit's factories. Prime Minister Carney didn't waste any time. He called the tariff a catastrophic misstep and floated the idea of export quotas on key minerals if the U.S. didn't back down. Meanwhile, Canadian mills chased contracts in Asia, and Ford's River Rouge plant shut down 2 lines due to lack of steel. Wall Street reacted fast. The S&P 500 dropped 0.75% by the closing bell, a dip traders dubbed the Trump session teaser. The irony was hard to miss. A tariff designed to protect American jobs had, in just 1 week, outsourced metal supplies, frozen Detroit's assembly lines, and handed control of North America's supply chain to Canada. And that's just the beginning. Back on May 7th, Ford CEO Jim Farley predicted this exact outcome. He warned that the 50% tariff would slap a $2.5 billion surcharge on Ford's 2025 balance sheet, forcing the company to withdraw its profit forecast. A month earlier, Reuters had already estimated the impact. Vehicles built in Mexico could see price hikes of up to 25%, roughly $2,000 more for a mid-size crossover. By the following weekend, customers felt the pain. Dealers from San Antonio to Seattle added temporary surcharges to models with lots of imported parts. Factory order backlogs piled up, but the deepest wound showed up in employment data. By April 4th, Michigan's jobless rate hit 5.4%, the worst in the nation and a full point above the national average. Economists link the rise to one missing ingredient: Canadian steel. Each F-150 built in Dearborn needs a ton of it. At $900 per ton, River Rouge is burning through over $100,000 in steel every 3 minutes. Multiply that across 1.5 million trucks, and the steel bill alone hits $1.3 billion before a single paycheck is written or truck painted. Congress took notice. On July 21st, a bipartisan group of Great Lakes senators went to Ottawa, urging Carney to lift what they called a metal blockade. Carney offered only limited relief, mentioning export quotas that would actually keep more Canadian steel at home. The bottom line is brutal. A tariff wall meant to protect American industry is starving Detroit of the steel it breathes, giving Canada control over the supply chain and putting US manufacturing jobs on the chopping block. If the tariffs don't come down soon, Motor City could face a 2008-style crash, this time with no bailout in sight. Carney treated Trump's tariff like a starting gun. By July 16th, he unveiled a $1 billion Canadian Steel Modernization Fund. The goal? Rip out coal-fired blast furnaces and replace them with clean electric arc and hydrogen-powered systems across Ontario's steel corridor. An hour later, Ottawa shut the door on outside competition. Any steel from non-free trade partners now faces a sharply reduced quota. Once the 2024 cap is hit, a steep 50% duty kicks in. That means cheaper slabs from countries like Turkey or Brazil won't clear customs unless buyers are willing to pay even more than the US tariff. The math only works because Ontario's power grid is 93% emissions-free, thanks to hydroelectric dams and a strong nuclear backbone. That clean energy makes Canadian steel 3 to 4 times greener than the global average. It also positions Canadian metal to meet Europe's new carbon import taxes, which begin in 2026. For ArcelorMittal Dofasco, Hamilton's largest steelmaker, the Canadian fund is a windfall. They've already broken ground on a new direct reduced iron DRI unit that will feed 2 electric arc furnaces. The upgrade is expected to cut 5 million tons of emissions annually. Once natural gas prices settle, production costs are expected to drop significantly. Detroit is watching all of this unfold with growing frustration. Every ton of Canadian steel that used to head south on CN Rail is now being rerouted, shipped instead to Rotterdam or Busan, stamped carbon border adjustment ready, and now commanding a premium that US automakers simply can't match. By the time Ford's River Rouge plant is fully operational again, Canada may have already cemented its place in Europe's supply chain, leaving the Motor City to pay the price for Trump's tariffs with interest. And here's the billion-dollar question. How do you compete with a neighbor who just turned your tariff shock into a clean steel moonshot? Canada isn't fighting back with retaliation, it's outmaneuvering. On July 22nd, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario signed a new agreement requiring that every new pipeline, rail spur, mineral corridor, even service roads, must use steel melted in Ontario. That simple rule kicked US steel mills right off the bid lists. According to the American Iron and Steel Institute, Canada shipped about 6.56 million tons of steel to the US last year, with over 1 million tons used just for pipelines. Now, every bit of that supply is already spoken for, either staying in Canada or flowing down new trade routes that completely bypass US customs. Ottawa didn't stop there. Last week, a trade bulletin slashed import quotas on tubes and pipes from countries without free trade agreements. The new cap is half of what it was last year. Anything above it? Hit with the same 50% tariff the US imposed. American energy contractors felt the sting right away. Before the tariff war, the US imported about 40% of its oil country tubular goods, OCTG, the heavy-duty pipes that keep oil wells pumping. By March 12th, analysts told Reuters that Canada and Mexico still supplied 16% of those pipes, but at a projected cost increase of 15% this year. The ripple effect is devastating. Smaller drillers in Texas and North Dakota now struggle to lock in pipe deliveries without swallowing that premium. Midstream service firms are watching $100 million contracts vanish as Alberta insists on made-in-Canada steel. Maintenance crews working on Enbridge's Midwest grid are even scavenging parts from stockpiles because replacement orders are stuck in customs limbo. And there's no quick fix for this. Building new domestic ERW pipe mills takes years. Shipping crude by rail is a riskier and more expensive option. Meanwhile, Alberta's government is cashing in. gaining jobs, investment, and political leverage, framing this as a strategic move for energy security. With just one policy memo and one quota change, Canada has turned its clean energy advantage into a powerful trade weapon. It's locked in future pipeline supply, redirected trade routes, and left U.S. steelmakers staring at empty order books while Detroit's factory robots sit idle. While the U.S. scrambles, Europe is quietly raising the stakes. On January 1st, 2026, the European Union will activate its Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM, which adds a carbon price to every imported ton of steel, equal to what EU producers already pay. That fee is expected to average $88.95 per ton, effectively adding $90 to every short ton of steel landing in ports like Antwerp. For Ottawa, this is a jackpot. Back in February 2025, the consulting firm Anthesis told clients that Canada's hydrogen and hydro-powered grid makes its steel CBAM ready, a low-carbon alternative to higher-emission competitors. In plain terms, EU buyers who check carbon labels will see Canadian steel flagged green and US steel flagged red. So while the US once counted on truckloads of Canadian coil rolling into Michigan, that same steel can now head east to Europe, fetch a higher price, and completely sidestep the tariff wall. For American families, the numbers go the other way. The Tax Foundation estimates that this year's tariff roster will cost the average U.S. household $1,296, an entire month of grocery money gone. Detroit's executives see the trap clearly. Pay Europe's carbon toll and lose the price war abroad, or stick with outdated blast furnaces and take a 50% hit at home. Either way, margins, already razor thin after the pandemic and chip shortages, get squeezed even tighter. Meanwhile, Brussels offers a lifeline, a carbon passport. If your steel plant emits less than the EU average, you pay nothing at the border. Today, Canada's mills qualify. They run on renewable energy. US plants, still 63% coal-powered, don't. As always, supply chains will follow the cheapest route. Trump built a tariff wall to protect American jobs. Brussels built a carbon gate that redirects them. And Canada, led by Carney, just opened a clean steel express lane to Europe. So, what should Washington do now? Should it sprint toward clean steel innovation? Or keep wearing its tariff armor and hope the world doesn't move on? That 50% tariff was meant to be a job shield. Instead, it shut the door on imports and left Detroit scrambling for metal while Hamilton's furnaces glow through the night. Ford alone is staring down a $2.5 billion steel bill. Michigan has already lost its title as an employment leader, and Congress is still stuck arguing over who lit the fuse. Meanwhile, Canada is quietly rebuilding its steel sector with clean energy and hydrogen. If Europe's CBAM goes live as planned in 2026, Canadian steel will enter Antwerp on a green passport, while high-emission US slab could face double taxation at home and abroad. There's still time to negotiate, but the clock is ticking. So here's the final question. Will Washington defuse the tariff time bomb, or double down and watch the world pass it by? Please subscribe to the Timeful channel, and don't forget to like.